He gave her everything, his heart, his trust, his future. But when he caught her cheating with his best friend, his world shattered. Broken and humiliated, he disappeared without a word, only to return years later, rich, powerful, and completely transformed. But what happens when the woman who betrayed him wants a second chance and he's already moved on? Welcome to Infidelity Truths. Before we dive into today's gripping story, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more thrilling stories just for you. Let's begin. There have been hard days in my life, but none hit quite like that night. It wasn't loud, no arguments, no public humiliation. But the shame I felt was sharp, quiet, and unforgettable. I'd never felt so invisible. It was my birthday, yet somehow I felt like an outsider in my own life. The backyard was filled with music, laughter, clinking glasses, people I cared about. But then there was her, my wife, Vanessa, laughing like a schoolgirl with her ex-husband. Yeah, her ex. She invited him. I spent weeks planning that night. Nothing fancy, just a chill evening. Grilling, drinks, a good vibe. I invited close friends, a few of her people too, because that's how we always did things. Vanessa had asked a few days earlier if she could bring some old friends. I said, sure. I trusted her, or thought I did. I was halfway through my third beer when he walked in. At first, I didn't recognize him. My buddy Marcus leaned in and said, "Isn't that Vanessa's ex?" My chest tightened instantly. He strolled in like he belonged there, like he knew this was a bold move, but also that someone wanted him there. Vanessa hugged him. Not a polite one either. It was slow, familiar, the kind of hug that speaks volumes. I stood there, beer midair, not sure what to do. She turned with a bright smile and said, "Babe, this is Ethan. I told you I invited some old friends." I didn't say much, just shook his hand. One of those cold, tight handshakes where both men know what's really going on. He looked at me like I was harmless. I smiled like I wanted to throw him through the grill. I'm not the jealous type. I don't dig through phones or question every interaction, but that night I noticed everything. The way she touched his arm, the way she laughed harder at his jokes, the tilt of her head when she was locked in, something she used to do with me, and she was completely sober. Every move she made wasn't careless, it was chosen. And that's what broke me. Everyone saw it. No one said a word, but I felt their eyes. Those awkward, uncomfortable glances. I stood at the grill, flipping burgers like nothing was wrong while Ethan talked about his trip to Greece. Vanessa stood beside him, glowing. Like I wasn't even there. Like I was a placeholder. Marcus came over, asked if I was all right. I lied, said I was tired. What was I supposed to say? That my wife had emotionally betrayed me in the middle of my own birthday party? I didn't confront her. I didn't blow up. That's not me. I absorbed it. Played the host, smiled for photos, made a toast because she asked me to. The whole time I was watching, noting, feeling her drift further and further away. After everyone left, the silence in the house was deafening. Vanessa kissed my cheek and said, "That was nice, wasn't it?" I looked at her, really looked, and realized I didn't recognize her anymore. "Yeah," I said. "It was something." She went to clean her face and said she was exhausted. I sat in the dark with a half-finished glass of whiskey, and something inside me shifted. She thought I'd take it, swallow it like always, but she didn't know what I had noticed. She didn't know I'd been paying attention. When we first got together, she told me about her past marriage, bare minimum. His name, how long they were together, said it didn't work, and they weren't in contact. I took her at her word. Everyone has a past. But now, the pieces lined up. The distant look when she scrolled through old photos. The time she laughed at a joke about exes who still live in your phone. I joked, "Still got him saved?" She replied too quickly, "Of course not." But the next day I checked. No Ethan. But there was a e-design taxes. Vanessa never handled her own taxes. I didn't ask, didn't want to be that guy, but I remembered how once in her sleep she murmured, "Ethan, stop." I never brought it up, just laid there wondering why his name still sounded so alive in her mouth. When I gently tried to talk about it, she snapped, You think I'm still hung up on someone I divorced? Seriously? She made me question myself. That's how it works, right? You end up apologizing for noticing what's right in front of you. There was a time we bumped into him at a store. She fixed her hair in the freezer door, straightened up, hugged him longer than she hugged her own father. They laughed like old lovers. He looked at me and said, "So this is the lucky guy?" She didn't say yes. She just smiled. That's when I knew. I was never her first choice. I was the safe one, the reliable one, the quiet one. She chose comfort, not passion. And when she brought him to my birthday, it wasn't clueless. It was deliberate. You don't invite your past into your present unless there's something still beating. So, I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I moved in silence, took days off work, went through our apartment, our accounts, anything tying us together. I cleaned house quietly, removed my name from her car insurance, split our finances. The condo, it was in my name. She never noticed. I called my real estate buddy. We had a buyer the next day. I started packing, not for me, but for her. I cooked dinner that week, made her laugh, slept beside her, let her believe everything was fine. Then Saturday morning, I handed her an envelope. She opened it expecting something romantic. Instead, it was a letter. No drama, just facts. She had 48 hours to leave. Her access to my accounts? Gone. Phone line? Cut. The ring? She could keep it. It meant nothing now. She froze. What is this? I looked her in the eyes. This is the cost of pretending I didn't exist on my birthday. She reached for my hand. Nathan, wait. I stepped back. You invited your ex. You flirted with him. You humiliated me, and you were sober. You meant it. She cried, those tears that used to break me. But I felt nothing. She said it meant nothing, that she missed who she used to be around him. Then go be her again, I said. Just not here. She begged, pleaded, asked for a conversation, but it was already over. I'd told the building management, changed the door code, her phone, disconnected. Ethan, he wasn't picking up. Turns out he was engaged and wanted no part of the drama. Within 72 hours, her entire fantasy collapsed. The woman who lit up the party like she was the main event was now calling people for a place to sleep. I didn't block her. I just never answered. Because real revenge isn't loud. It's clarity. It's peace. And once I tasted it, I never looked back. No, I never took her back. Even 6 months later when she messaged me saying she was healing and missed what we had. She did lose something, but so did I. And we both had to live with it. I stayed single. Not bitter, just free. I walked more, listened to silence. I painted, I traveled alone. It didn't feel lonely. It felt powerful. I remembered the man I was before all of it, before the self-doubt, before the guilt, before the shrinking. And I realized the most grown man thing I ever learned. You don't need someone to complete you. You need someone who doesn't drain you. Will love come again? Maybe. But I'm not waiting for it. And if it ever shows up, it better bring honesty, peace, and zero ghosts. Because I'm done loving people who keep altars for others in their hearts. I'd rather be alone in peace than partnered in doubt. Angela was gone by Monday evening. The apartment looked bigger without her things. Quieter, too. No scented candles, no cluttered makeup table, no trail of bobby pins and perfume on the dresser. Just silence. And for the first time in a long while, David welcomed it. He took a week off from everything. Work, texts, the gym. He needed space, not just physically, but mentally. He didn't cry. That was the strange part. It wasn't sadness he felt, it was relief. Like finally exhaling after holding your breath underwater for too long. Some people expected drama. Friends texted, wondering why Angela's social media had gone dark, why she moved out so suddenly. David didn't answer. He wasn't interested in explanations. He wasn't looking to be pitied or praised. He had no interest in becoming the good guy who got done dirty. That story was too small for what he'd been through, too shallow for the depth of what he had felt. A few mutual friends tried to stay neutral. One even dared to say, maybe she just needed closure with Jared. David laughed, quietly, bittersweet. People say a lot of foolish things when they don't have to live your reality. He got rid of the couch they picked out together, repainted the walls, swapped their wedding photo with a canvas print of a mountain range he'd never been to but now planned to visit. Every detail he erased felt like removing splinters from his soul. Angela tried calling once. He let it ring. She texted, "Can we please talk?" He didn't respond. She sent a long message the next day, one of those soul-searching, guilt-laden essays people write when they realize what they've lost. It ended with, "I was wrong. You didn't deserve that. I just didn't know how much I was still broken. I'm sorry." David stared at the message for a long time, then archived it. Not deleted, just filed away in a place that no longer held power. He started waking up early, went on morning runs without headphones, just him, his breath, and the rhythm of his feet hitting pavement. He joined a weekend hiking group. Not for the people, but for the quiet places they visited. Nature doesn't lie, it doesn't pretend. It either grows or it doesn't. He met people, sure, some were interested. A few first dates here and there, but he was different now. Calmer, sharper. He could spot the red flags quicker. The subtle dismissiveness, the unfinished business with exes, the emotional unavailability dressed in confidence. He didn't judge, but he didn't stay either. One woman told him, "You're hard to read." He smiled and replied, "I used to be an open book." Someone tore out a few chapters. Angela started a blog about healing. Friends told him she wrote about guilt, about rediscovering herself, about learning from mistakes. He never read it. Not out of bitterness, but because that part of the story wasn't his anymore. She had her version. He had the truth. David found peace not in moving on quickly, but in sitting still. In understanding his worth wasn't tied to someone's inability to love him correctly. He started painting, walking, even cooking from scratch, rediscovering joy in small, ordinary things. He didn't need to be extraordinary anymore, just whole. Sometimes in the quiet, he'd think about that night. Not with anger, but clarity. It was the night he lost a wife, but found himself. And in a world full of noise, confusion, and people who don't know what they want, that's more than enough. It had been 11 months since Angela left. David stood in line at a small bookstore cafe tucked into a corner of the city, waiting for his order. The place smelled like old paper, roasted beans, and rain-soaked jackets. The kind of quiet corner where time seemed to stretch. "Medium cappuccino for David?" the barista called. He reached for the cup and almost bumped into someone reaching for the same napkin dispenser. "Sorry," they both said at the same time. She smiled. Warm, unrushed. The kind of smile that didn't try too hard. "No worries," she added, stepping back. "I'm Maya." He nodded. "David." They didn't exchange numbers, just names. Just a smile. But somehow she showed up again. 3 days later, same cafe, same seat by the window, this time with a copy of Siddhartha in her lap. "You again?" she teased gently. "Maybe I live here now." They laughed. It started slow. No late-night texting marathons. No sweeping gestures. Just casual conversations about books, coffee, and favorite places to watch the sunset. Maya had been divorced too. Her pain had a different shape, but carried a familiar weight. That unspoken understanding made the air between them easier to breathe. David never felt the need to impress her, and Maya never tried to fix him. One day she asked, "Do you still think about her?" He paused before answering. "Sometimes, not with anger, more like remembering who I used to be." Maya nodded. "That's fair." There were moments David questioned if he was ready. Some days the memory of betrayal hovered like a ghost. But healing wasn't a straight line. It was circular, rising slowly like the spiral of steam from his morning coffee. One breath at a time. He didn't try to replace Angela. He wasn't looking for redemption through someone else. He was simply allowing his heart to breathe in a new space. One built on trust, not performance. One rainy evening, as they sat in her apartment, sharing a quiet dinner, Maya leaned in and said, "You know what I like about you? You don't try to rush the silence." David looked at her, eyes soft. I used to fear silence. Now I think it's where the real things grow. They didn't say I love you right away. That phrase had once been cheapened for him, tossed around without care. But when he did say it, it came not as a declaration, but as a peace offering. A whisper from a man who had learned to love himself first. And when she said it back, it wasn't a promise. It was an echo. Honest. Grounded. Months later, as David stood on a quiet hilltop beside Maya, watching the sun sink behind a line of trees, he thought about the man he used to be. Broken, blindsided, bent by betrayal. Now he wasn't just healed. He was growing. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't moving on, it's moving forward with grace. It had been nearly 2 years. David didn't think much about Angela anymore. Life had found its rhythm again. Quiet mornings, honest laughter, Maya's hand in his, and a growing business he built from scratch, brick by brick. There was peace now. Until one rainy Thursday, he got a message. "Hey, I'm in town. Can we talk?" Angela. He stared at the screen for a long time. Not because he still felt something for her, but because he didn't. Not anger, not longing, just nothing. Still, something inside him whispered, "Go." They met at the same cafe where he and Maya first talked. Angela walked in wearing all black, her expression unreadable. She looked older, not by age, but by the weight of consequences. "Hi, David," she said, pulling her coat tighter. "Angela." They sat. The silence between them was full, but not heavy. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from," she started. "I didn't come to ask for anything. I've been carrying this guilt for a long time. I betrayed someone who truly loved me, and I lost everything." David nodded slowly, his voice steady. "You didn't just betray me. You broke a version of me that I'll never get back." She blinked, trying to hold back tears. "I'm sorry, truly. I was selfish. I thought the grass was greener. But it wasn't. It was fake. And I lost a man who would have moved mountains for me." David looked out the window, watching the rain paint streaks on the glass. "I'm not that man anymore," he said quietly. "And maybe that's the best thing that came out of all this." She looked up. "Are you happy?" He smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile. "Yes, happier than I've ever been." Angela nodded, her lips trembling. "That's all I wanted to know." They said goodbye like two people who had once shared a lifetime but now stood on separate shores. That night, David went home to Maya, who was curled up on the couch with a book. "Everything okay?" she asked. He sat beside her and took her hand. "Yeah, I finally buried something that's been lingering in the corners of my mind." Maya closed her book. "Want to talk about it?" He shook his head. "No need. I've said all I needed to say." She kissed his cheek and rested her head on his shoulder. As the rain drummed softly outside, David closed his eyes. He wasn't defined by betrayal anymore. He wasn't haunted by the past or chained to pain. He had loved, lost, healed, and grown. And now, he was free. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more emotional journeys just like this one.